This week on the Steel Report, you're going to hear directly from two experts who work daily in our rapidly expanding digital world of remote working, Dr. Jeff Kaplan of LIFTinnovate and Mark Reifenrath, who's the founder of Spinutech based in Cedar Falls. We're going to hear how they help their digital customers every day, and our program begins right now.
Now from KWWL, this is the Steel Report.
So right now on today's program, I want to give a big welcome to Dr. Jeff Kaplan of Waterloo. Dr. Kaplan is the Chief Operating Officer and a founding partner of a technology consulting company known as LIFTinnovate, based in Waterloo, with offices including the states of California, also in Canada. And LIFT, as you are about to learn from Dr. Kaplan, is one of the fastest growing private companies in the entire country, and that's according to Inc. 5000, which lists the 5,000 fastest growing private companies in the country. So Dr. Kaplan, welcome to the program. Congratulations on that great honor. And I want to talk a little bit about what you do, because you have only 40 some employees, but are already listed as one of the fastest growing private companies in the entire country. So what do you do, and how do you help people in this remote atmosphere that we all live in right now?
Well, you know, it's interesting because everywhere you look, you hear stories of COVID and how COVID has changed everything. But when it comes to our relationship with work, it's simply not true. What COVID did is it's accelerated something that's been building for a generation. Back in 2019, I was writing the draft for the books that'll be coming out next year on this subject. And the introduction stated in courtyards and classrooms, at the polls or in the mall, wherever people once gathered, there's a growing undercurrent of angst and anger and the nagging feeling that our social, political, and economic systems no longer meet our needs. And the workplace is no exception. The simple fact is our relationship with work is broken.
I know one of your missions certainly is to bridge that gap, your company says, between the best technologies that exist in the world today and the people who rely on those technologies and have to use them on a daily basis. So how do you do that with your 40 employees, many of whom I know live right here in this area? Some are UNI grads, and so you have a local flavor there. But you have 40 employees working, I assume, all remotely, as you're coming to us from your home today, and you actually work from your home, don't you?
Absolutely, as our entire staff does. And we work with organizations that are struggling to find their place in a new world of work that is part virtual and part physical. It's a hybrid world, and they're trying to figure out how to build an organization that makes sense in this new environment. There are 5 relationships that we help organizations build. We help them better rebuild their relationship with strategy, how they get things done, better help them understand their relationship with value, how they understand and promote the fact that what they sell now is much more than products and services. We help them help their employees rebuild their relationship with their careers, which I still find amazing. Our research shows that most people today still don't have a career plan. They just work from day to day, week to week, year to year, without an overarching plan to drive their career success. We also help customers work to rebuild their relationship with their customers in an environment that is ever more subscription-based, which changes that environment and changes that relationship. And then finally, we work with organizations to help them rebuild the relationship with each other. It's almost as though we're going to have to learn how to interact with one another all over again after a year of COVID quarantine as we head back to work.
Yeah, I was reading an article about you, which says your company was founded on the belief, and you just alluded to it right there, that our relationship with work is broken. So explain further that philosophy. What do you mean by that? For example, let's take a small company right here in the Cedar Valley. How could you help them adapt to what is going on with everybody having to social distance and stay away from each other, and that broken relationship existing so prominently right now?
Yeah, it's all about people and processes and the power of self-selection. You know, when I grew up, in business, there was this aura around the corner office that people behind that wood paneled door went to the right schools and had just the right words, the right vocabulary, and all the skills necessary to run the business. And the rest of us that maybe didn't go to an Ivy League school or didn't have, the relationship or generational relationship or some kind of leg up in the organization organization. We were on the outside and we didn't quite have what folks have on the inside. What we find now, though, is the reality is that there is a wealth of value in amongst our employees if we just create opportunities for them to engage. So our focus on our activities is on how to help people self-select in, to give them the courage to raise their hand and says, I have an idea, I want to participate, I'm going to take that project, I'd like to put myself, in the running for that promotion. And it is amazing when we work with an organization and that organization gives people permission to think differently and work differently and engage in new ways, just how quickly that organization can accelerate its productivity.
Now, I notice, according to the Inc. 5000 list, they kind of explain what that's based on, and it's based on revenue growth. And your revenue growth, to get this, 690% in recent years. So how have you been able to do that? You must have started at a certain small level and have continued to grow and then added employees here and there. So how is that happening with your company, LIFTinnovate?
Well, one of the things we've done is because we're virtual, we can cast a wide net. Now, granted, we've got great talent right here in the state of Iowa, but being able to go out and be a company without borders, so to speak, and to get the best talent, whether it's in Canada or Europe or Southeast Asia, wherever it may be, and then to bring those folks in that share the love and the passion for helping organizations succeed that the founders have, has really been our key to success.
So I know you've done an awful lot of national speaking, and I don't know if you want to share this or not, but what are some of the companies that you're working with right now? Are you able to tell us that, and how are you able to get those companies on board?
Yeah, over the last few years, as you well know, we've had a chance to I've had a chance to work with 4 New York Times best-selling authors in producing books and research on business, and that work has allowed me to do 1,200 professional speaking engagements in 26 countries, and I've worked with companies that include Procter & Gamble, United Healthcare, the New York Stock Exchange, Dow, DuPont, Aon, Mattel, UMBC, the University of Toronto, and many others, including Mattel and others. And I get a chance to speak regularly at Iowa State, and UNI. So I've been very blessed in being able to not only have certain ideas and insights, but to be able to go out and work with people in the field as it happens, so that we can really test out our new ideas.
So are you still looking for employees, and what kind of employees does Lyft look for? What kind of enthusiasm are you looking? I'm assuming that your employees are fairly young. They have this great view about the world. So what kind of people do you employ?
Well, we are always looking for great talent, always, right? And there isn't a profile per se, other than a passion for people and a passion for the possible, right? And we also want to make sure that somebody is involved in their own career. That's really important, because a lot of times people will allow their career to choose them, right? They'll summarize who they are, what their interests are, what their GPA is, and put a cover note on it on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and call that sort of, their resume, their life. And that's very rarely a reflection of who they are. And then people look at those resumes, organizations look at those resumes, and then select employees that then accept offers. It should be the other way around, right? When you think about it, it's 40 hours a week times 52 weeks a year. That's 2,080 hours a year for 40 years. That's 83,400 hours that you're making as a commitment to this thing called your career. And we think it's really important to hire staff that wants to be really involved in that. They want to develop a career for themselves. They want to have a voice in an organization. And that's one of the reasons that we stayed the size that we're at. We could very easily be double or triple the size full-time staff, but we try to keep it small because we want to keep it simple. And we want to make sure that every single person that we have in the organization is as dedicated to each of our customers and the vision that we have as we are.
We're going to take a short break here on this week's edition of the Steel Report. We'll be coming back to talk more with Dr. Jeff Kaplan of Lyft in just a moment. And welcome back to this week's edition of the Steel Report. As Dr. Jeff Kaplan of Waterloo, he is the Chief Operating Officer and founding partner of the technology consulting company known as LIFTinnovate, based in Waterloo, and about 40 employees overall, all working remotely. And Dr. Kaplan, one of the things that I wanted to touch on, and I know you did too, is the cost of health care in this broken relationship that you're talking about, and how you believe that Lyft and fine companies like yours can really make sure that that relationship is not broken in the near future. So what are you talking about as far as how to fix that as we still have to live with COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about it, the place we work is in many ways an extension of our family. We're spending, as we talked about earlier, 83,400 hours of our life in this thing called a career. It should be a safe place, but the statistics read quite differently. As a matter of fact, the workplace is one of the least healthy places for us, that there is. As a matter of fact, back in 2015, Forbes did an analysis of work-related healthcare expense, along with lost productivity, absenteeism, and the associated employee turnover. And they estimated the total cost to be about $330 billion a year. Now, that's pretty big, but think about this. By 2018, Forbes reported again that number had ballooned to $880 billion annually. So I want to put that in context, because this sort of really brings it home. If you think about it in terms of revenue generation, the healthcare costs in America for employer healthcare costs is equivalent to the combined revenues of Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Netflix, eBay, and Adobe. And all told is 3 times the cost of what is one of our most serious, if not the most serious challenges, cancer, each year. That's how much of a challenge work has become to us.
Yeah, I mean, Hewlett-Packard told Bill Gates nobody would ever want a desktop, right? If I remember correctly. So you're a pioneer in what is called social organic adoption. Now remember, I'm about 70 years old, so you're going to have to explain that one to me, and maybe I missed it earlier on. So what are you talking about there, Jeff?
Social organic adoption is the idea that the greatest value of an organization lies within its people. Now, that's not a new idea. A lot of executives have been on stages, I've been on the stage with them all around the world, where they go out and say, our people are our most important asset. The difference in what we're talking about now is the fact that we know how to tap into that. Many times they'll say, people are our most important asset, and then they'll get off the stage and say, but I don't know how or what to do about that. And what we've found is that if you engage people in the process, if you give them a voice, if you allow them to self-select, self-govern, self-direct, and self-perpetuate organizational dynamics, you are going to end up with an organization that basically outperforms, outsells, outskills, outthinks, out-innovates its competition. And that's what it's all about. That's what makes it exciting. That's what makes it exciting, and that's what keeps me feeling young every day, because I'm just as excited to come into work, 35 years in, as I was day one of my career. And you actually hit on the main point of the books that we're putting together now. We're calling the book series The New Leadership Challenge. And the New Leadership Challenge is, how do we take great ideas that are created in the boardroom and make them relevant in the break room? Because what happens in the middle is all the politics you were just talking about. That great idea gets filtered through the various leaders of business units, gets filtered through various geographies and their own interests, so that by the time it gets down to an individual who's actually the person that's going to make it succeed or not succeed, that individual employee, by the time it gets to them, they may not even know about it, know what to do about it if they, or what to do about it if they do. I remember once working with an international telecom company based in London, and I talked to the CEO, and he shared with me his vision for strategy for the next year. Very excited about it. I went into their Singapore office and asked the receptionist and a couple of people in the office there, what they thought about that strategy, in practice, and they said they had never heard of it. And that's sort of the problem, between the boardroom and the break room. How do we fill that gap? And that's where people having the ability and the permission to speak and contribute become the stuff that fills that gap and gives organizations the capability to take strategy and then execute it in the field.
One more question before I let you go, Dr. Kaplan. I know research is an important part of what you do. Also, customer success is at the top of your list. You want that customer list to be satisfied with your work and what they're doing in their own businesses, don't you?
Yeah, and I will tell you that customer success has a whole new meaning today in a world that has gone more and more subscription based. So instead of the old days where we wanted to sell something to someone and give them just enough support to make sure that they, checked off a card that says they were, this amount satisfied or, was satisfied enough maybe to come back with a subscription model, whether it's, HBO or a subscription to the courier, right? With a subscription model, you have to have the customer renew. And that means there has to be this new customer success action. It's the stuff we do after we sell, make that initial sale, all the way to the time that they renew. So there's a whole new motion out there that is all about customer success. We not only need to make the transaction, but we need to invest and ensure that each customer that spends money with us or invests in us gets that return, and that we do everything we can above and beyond the product and service. Give our knowledge, give our time, give our attention, make sure that customer is successful.
All right, Dr. Jeff Kaplan, one of the co-founders of LIFTinnovate, based right here in Waterloo, all remote. We really appreciate you, Jeff, for taking the time to talk to people a little bit about your philosophy, because you're a startup company in 2014. Now you're one of the fastest growing private companies in the country. So congratulations on that. Thanks for
Thank you so
us.
much for your time.
All right, Jeff, thanks a lot. More on the Steel Report in just a moment.